to Mr. Sanjay Poonen, the COO of VMware. And Mr. Poonen, you're with us from California, aren't you?
Thank you very much for having me at your conference. Yeah, I am here in California. It's early in the morning.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a
Please,
pleasure.
just so we understand, I mean, you are a partner of NetClean's, but we would also want to know exactly what is VMware. It's a global company, it's a part of Dell, you're providing solutions in the cloud, but tell us a little bit so we understand exactly what VMware is working with.
Thank you for having me at your conference. It's a delight and a pleasure to be with you. VMware, we are the sixth largest software company in the world. We're about 11 billion in revenue. Our core proposition is cloud infrastructure. We invented this notion of a virtual machine that is really the kind of like the operating system of data centers. It helps companies run their data centers efficiently, save energy, save costs. And we've been doing that for 20 years and about have a 500,000 customers. And then we also have a user and a security part of our business where we protect people's devices, we secure those devices, and that's the connection for our partnership with NetClean. We have a very vibrant ecosystem. We work with many of the largest companies in the world, including cloud infrastructure companies like Amazon and big hardware companies like Dell. But then we also like partnering with innovative newer companies like NetClean.
Okay. VMware security strategy is all about keeping applications and data secure from hackers and theft. How can this strategy be applied to the problems that we are facing with child safety?
Yeah, I think, when Hans Vestberg, CEO now of Verizon, he's a good friend of mine, first told me about Anna and NetClean, I was very intrigued by the proposition. My wife and I are, personally support many causes like this from a charitable perspective, like the International Justice Mission, things that are focused on child safety. I like the way in which NetClean even called it child abuse, child exploitation. So the cause was near and dear to my heart, first off. So I think the nature of what NetClean was trying to solve. But then we asked ourselves as a company, beyond my own personal passion for areas like this, we have technology on people's devices, laptop, tablets, and phones that manage and secure that. Workspace ONE and Carbon Black. How could we build integration jointly on our side and also with NetClean? Because the value proposition of VMware is to have an ecosystem of partners that build on our platform. So we've been working between our mutual teams by which the technology that we use to protect the laptops can have deep integration with NetClean. So we can not just protect the devices from these known types of malware and things that we see in often, devices that could come at them. And these are, threats like Petya, things that we saw in the past, but also these newer type of threats where users might be trying to do malicious things like store images, store files of child abuse.
How do you estimate the willingness among your customers to pay for this kind of IT protection? It's an extra cost.
I think I think customers realize there's obviously security is a boardroom topic today because people want to keep their places safe. They've seen the impact of some of these deep threats, whether it's from bad people who are criminals who are trying to attack, whether it's an accidental problem, or whether it's nation state. These are very, very big. And if there's one thing that's growing even faster and bigger than the security industry, where there's investment from small and big companies, it's the bad guys. They're actually growing. So what we found is there's willingness. The chief security officer of companies have budgets. They're often one of the biggest parts of IT budgets. And banks, telecom and media, public sector, healthcare, hospitals, they've seen attacks. In many cases, many big companies in their industry have been attacked. So there's a willingness to invest in security. That's one. And then as we think about the nature of what the security threat is, the surface area has now grown because in the past it may have been just laptops, but now you have mobile devices. In the past it may have been just a data center, but now you have the cloud. So mobile and cloud and operational systems, we've even seen threats coming in from air conditioning systems. So anything that's on the internet now has the possibility of being a potential for a threat. And just listening to Anna just now in terms of the ways in which people are looking for more and more sophisticated ways, to create security. And this particular form of security is often intentional, malicious, and by people who fundamentally don't understand, what it means to abuse children. So that's a crime in, I think, almost every country in the world. And it's important for us as, folks in the corporate world to not just think about our customers and our employees, but also think about the community and how do we keep the community safe. I do think that it's important that companies have a greater good than just looking at profits. The greater good is keeping the community safe. And this is an example. NetClean's a great example of a company that's doing that.
We're in the midst of an epidemic, and there is a connection between the COVID, people staying at home, the schools are closed at many places, and so on, and between this child sexual abuse. And you as a company, you have just launched a new tag, era of remote work, I think it is, and you are really now searching for what takes it to have all these centers of these offices, thousands of them all of a sudden when people work from home. You have been investing new leadership and organizations and so on. Could you tell us a little bit, what do you see will stay on after COVID time?
Yeah, here we are, right? I'm able to talk to you in Scandinavia here. Thank God for technology like Zoom. Welcome to my makeshift living room, so to speak, so we could talk. And it's almost real time in terms of communication. And the video quality is pretty good. I think the last time we went through a crisis like this was 2008. I was working at SAP at the time. And we were all huddled in these small rooms around this very expensive equipment, telepresence, to try and have high fidelity. And then when we first saw this company, Zoom, I know the CEO of Zoom. I thought this was incredible because they were bringing that power telepresence type technology to a mobile phone. And here we are, we're able to have this type of conversation. So thank God for technology that allows us, even through this pandemic, to have collaboration. But I think the future of work is forever changed because going forward, I don't think that every person, even when we come back, will be comfortable coming back to work for a long time. And some people, if they're going through sickness, should also not come to work when they're sick. They should be allowed to heal and be able to heal nicely from home, but not sometimes miss work. So I think certain things will change. For example, we have instituted a policy now where every meeting has a mandatory Zoom requirement. Why? If someone's sick, they should be able to work from home, but not have any prejudice where they can't participate in the meeting. Communication now becomes a lot more intimate in country zones. We've started doing more 25, 30-minute calls for many of my teams in the country, once a month. In the past, I might go to Japan once or twice a year. I might go to France or Europe, 2 or 3 times a year. Now I could be in almost every country once a month in their time zone. It doesn't mean that when the pandemic ends, I won't travel. The way in which we collaborate in teams is also going to have to change because some of these collaboration tools, while we may want to meet in person for the first phase of a design of a project, when it gets to the next phase, we'll have to work remotely, and we need collaboration tools within this type of Zoom environment. So I think at the beginning and the end of a project, we'll probably see people coming into the office, maybe in smaller percentages than 100%. In some countries, it might be 25, 40, 50%. But then we need to allow always for a distributed workforce. And how does VMware play into this? We want to make sure that as you're using your laptops and phones, any of those devices, in a distributed sense, it's secure and managed, and it's really simple to access applications. That's how we're kind of like that highway that allows the cars to operate really, really well and safely.
But this will affect the entire society. I'm thinking of public transportation, I'm thinking of estate market and prices of office buildings and so on. This is part of your strategy, I guess. You have been into all this. Could you elaborate a little bit about what's happening apart from security at home and apart from people not going to the office? Society-wise, will be making new structure.
Yeah, I think there's profound impacts on society. And we have to think about not just the physical health of our employees, but also the mental health. I'm deeply concerned that the more people are just sitting at home on these, endless Zoom calls, they're going to have Zoom fatigue. I call this Zoom butt because I'm sitting on all the time on video conference. That's not healthy, certainly for adults, but it's also not healthy for our children to be educated through these types of modes. We were made to have students in classrooms, so I'm hoping schools can open safely in all the different parts of the world. But we have to think about the broader societal implications, and how do we ensure that our society is both, able to function productively and safe. I think there's a part of the economy, almost every country except for a few are still in negative GDP growth. And I think technology and digital technology and the IT industry has to be the ones that help lead. I don't know that this pandemic will last 6 years like World War II did, but let's just say it's 6, 12, 18 months since we have therapeutics and the vaccine. And when we see a recovery in the economy, I think it's incumbent on digital technology to be that agent of change, but also to do it in a way that embraces society. And I think the greater good of VMware, this is where we feel we are one company among many others that owe it not just to be a profitable, high growth company, one of the greatest IT companies, but also to be a force for good. And the more you can think about all of your stakeholders, certainly your stakeholders are your employees and your customers, but your stakeholders are also your communities, and the public in general.
Exactly.
When you can serve those communities, you actually become a better company, not just for your employees, but for all of society.
Thank you so much, Sanjay Poonen, for taking part in this conference early in the morning from your side, and with this very good conclusion that you presented to us here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me in your conference, and all the very best. Stay safe and be well.